Kia ora everyone, my name's Nat Hugill. I am an actor and performing artist based in good old Middle Earth, aka New Zealand. I'm also a registered secondary school drama teacher, so I'm here to teach y'all a little bit about what I know, and hopefully it'll help you to become a better actor and performer. Now, in my first video in the performer series, I focused on the characterization and drama techniques, okay, so voice, body, movement, space. For this one in particular, I'm going to be taking you through some of the Stanislavski principles, telling you what they are, and sharing a bit of my knowledge with that. So, let's get started. Konstantin Stanislavski was a theatre practitioner from Russia. He's created a system, a series of principles and questions that actors and performers should be asking themselves every time that they go into either into a play or onto the stage or whatever. So the first thing that I'm going to take you through is the Stanislavski fundamental questions. And they are literally called the fundamental questions. And there's about 12 of them, okay? Before I go into them, you can apply these to if you're doing a monologue, if you're in a scene or in a play. If you are performing on stage in maybe a cabaret burlesque element, you can take some of these questions, but you wouldn't need to answer all of them because I don't think all of them would be particularly relevant. But anyway, have a listen and we'll go through them. Number one, where's my finger? Number one, there, is who am I? Now, with all of these questions, you don't want to be thinking, who am I, in terms of like, you know, what's my name? Okay, it's way more than that. You're thinking about what kind of personality are you? An introvert? Are you an extrovert? What is your religious beliefs? What are your moral beliefs? What's your background? What is your... What if you could describe yourself in maybe 3 emotions, you know, what would they be? Are you an optimist or are you a pessimist? The second is, what time is it? Super important if you, for anything really, like if you're acting in the future, okay, say if you're a robot, okay, and you're a hyper intelligent robot and you are in the future, okay, you wouldn't want to base your perceptions of a robot is now on a robot that is then, because they're probably going to be 10 times more advanced and probably more humanoid than anything. So depending on the period or the era in which the scene is set, you need to be thinking about that. Also, it's really important to be thinking about if you're playing a character, say like in the Crucible, okay, witch hunting, all of those superstitious things, the moral obligations of people, the statuses of men versus women, you really need to be thinking about those because they're intrinsically important to be able to make it real. Where am I? Stanislavski was a big believer in belief, okay, the belief system. What he believed was that you need to convince yourself and your audience of who you are and where you are. For you to be able to portray that you are in a dense bush by yourself and sort of like Blair Witch Project, you need to convince yourself that you're there, and that's all in the imagination. So you need to visualize it. You need to visualize that you're there and believe wholeheartedly in yourself that you are there. What are my given circumstances? Given circumstances sort of revolve around what has this character, and it revolves around backstory. If you watch my first video where we talk about characterization, I talk about how important it is to have a 3-dimensional backstory for your character. And these questions align perfectly with that. So what are my given circumstances? How has your recent past affected you? Your recent past could be the past 24 hours, it could be the past 3 years, 6 years, and also you want to think what's going to be happening to my character afterwards. You don't want that to foreshadow unless it's intentional in your actions, but you want to be thinking about that. What are my relationships? Okay, this is really relevant. This is more relevant if you're in a scene or in a play. What are the relationships with the different people that I have in this scene? Is it my husband? Is it my ex-husband? Okay, the way that you would react to your husband as opposed to your ex-husband is probably going to be completely different. Okay, what is my objective? Your objective is your motivation and your reason for doing something. Okay, first of all I'm going to talk about the super objective because that's kind of more, it's easier to talk about the objective once we've talked about super. So the super objective, Here's the start of the play, here's the end of the play. At the start of the play, you have an objective. Let's take Taming of the Shrew, for example, with Petruchio and Kate. Petruchio's objective in the beginning of the play is to tame Kate, because she's a shrew. Okay, the shrew being a insulting word for someone who doesn't, well, I guess she doesn't know her place and she's consistently disobedient, when women back then, oh no, they were always under the authority of the man of the household. And by the end of the play, hopefully Petruchio's been able to tame Kate, and which he does. Between there, here and there, the beginning and the end, he needs to go through a series of actions with many objectives to be able to get to the main objective at the end. Okay, so in one scene, for example, he might belittle Kate and make her feel inferior and mock and jibe her. And that intention is like, I'm going to mock Kate and make her feel inferior, is all linked to this super objective of him trying to tame her. Okay, that's sort of where what is my through line comes in. Your through line is think of it like as the mini objectives are little pieces of knots, little knots in a piece of string, and the through line is the string that strings them all together to the super objective at the end. Yeah. What is my obstacle? What is stopping your character from getting what they want? Okay, for example, if we take Taming of the Shrew, the obstacle is also the person in his Petruchio's objective. He's trying to tame Kate, but his obstacle is Kate, because she's so shrewish and completely unbecoming of a woman, and so stubborn that she's hindering him getting what he wants. So he then in turn needs to work extra hard to try and woo her. And there can be many obstacles, just like in your mini objectives, there's many obstacles that hinder your character from getting what they want. And it's all about the action. What is your action, and how do you go about getting to your mini objectives and passing through those obstacles? The next principles are sort of the magic if. The magic if is really, really awesome in terms of it helps you to think outside the square. Stanislavski, as I said, is all about belief and having belief in oneself. The magic if helps put us into situations that maybe we haven't experienced before, and it links directly with emotional and physical memory, which I'm going to go into now. And it's easier for me to describe when I talk about both of them. Emotional memory is basically when you use, as humans, right, we live. We have felt happiness, we have felt sadness, we've been on absolute highs, we've been on absolute lows. There's things in our lives that we don't necessarily, that we would wish on no one. But they're there. And that's what makes us human, is because we feel. Okay? Stanislavski was all about using those emotions and projecting them through a character. For example, with the magic if. You're in a plane, and the plane motor's engines had failed, and you're hurtling down to earth, and you're sitting in the passenger side window, bad time to be sitting there, and you're watching the world go by, and you know eventually that you're going to die. A lot of us, obviously, have not been in that situation, and not many people have survived that. Don't think too heavily on it, it's just an example. You want to be thinking, if I was in this situation, how would I feel? Okay, think about it. What kind of emotions would you be feeling? Nausea, probably, because, you're going down like this in a plane, your stomach's going to be up in your chest, a lot of physical things will be going on. You're feeling panicked, you're feeling scared, you know that you're going to die and you don't want to, you're feeling pain over the fact that you're not going to be able to say goodbye to your loved ones. You're anticipating this horrible sense of the end. You want to be thinking, if I was in that situation, how would I feel? You want to find emotions. You want to think, how am I going to feel? What's the emotions that I'd probably be feeling? And when have I ever felt those emotions in my real life? Then what you do is you really think on those emotions, think on the memories in which you've felt them, and then bring them forth in your performance. And that will show. You don't even need to almost even think about facial expressions or gestures or anything like that, because it will ultimately come through you and you'll represent it as how you would, and the facial expressions and everything will already be there. Okay. With physical memory. Physical memory is basically, it's like emotional memory, where you draw back on on physical and times where you've felt something physically. Okay, guys, it's like when you've been kicked in the nuts. Okay, I'm pretty sure every single guy can fathom what it's like to be kicked in the nuts. Okay, the nausea, what do you do when you're in that? Another one, a universal one, I suppose, is that when we've been cold. What do you do when you're cold? We automatically retract, because it's like, pretend that you've just walked out the door, you've been in a nice warm home, and you've walked out the door and it's freaking freezing. And you're like, and the automatic thing to do is retract, because your body is going, and your brain's going, yeah, come on, just deal with it, and you go through with it. We automatically close our bodies off. We bow our heads against the wind. Our faces flinch because, and for some reason as humans we find that we have to tighten our faces, and somehow that's going to make us warmer. Watch people. And that's the whole big observation thing about Stanislavski. He's a big person in terms of observation. Watch what other people are doing, and also observe yourself. Now this is your homework. When it comes to physical and emotional memory, the next time you get cold, I want you to think, what am I doing? Because physical actions and our emotions are just, we don't think about them. We think about them, but we're not thinking, how am I reacting to them? We just let it happen. So the next time that you get cold, or the next time you're really hot, or the next time that you're crying or whatever, I want you to take that actor's moment, and I want you to have a little box up here that goes your little emotional physical storage area, and think, how am I reacting? What am I physically feeling? What, if I can name through emotions, what am I doing? And then store it in that box, so that when you go to an audition, and in auditions sometimes people will be like, you'll go in there prepared with something, and then they'll go, right, we're going to see how you take direction. Now I want you to play it as though you're a psychopath. And you're going, okay. It helps those kind of times, maybe not to play a psychopath, but it helps you to be a more versatile actor, because and it also teaches you a lot about how you react to things and how you deal with things personally. So I hope that's been really informative. It's been really, really quick. For more on Stanislavski, go and have a look at him on Google. Where would we be without Google? And next time I'm probably going to take you through the 7 levels of tension. So, ka kite.